The primate order of animals is the one that is going to include human beings. There's other animals that are included in this as well, and we can see a number of them on this slide. We have the lemurs, the tarsiers, and then you have what's typically called monkeys, and then we have the apes. If we mention some of the derived characteristics that we find in this group, first off, these have hands and feet that are modified to be good at grasping. So they're going to be able to grasp a twig or a tree branch. They're also going to be good at picking up their food and maneuvering that food quite well. We don't find this in other animal groups. They are going to have skin ridges. So this would be ridges on something like their fingers. We're going to see that here. They're going to have larger brains than what we have in other animal groups. They're going to have shorter jaws and a flat face. So overall, their skull is going to look quite different from the skulls of other mammals. Their eyes are going to be quite close together. And not only just close together, those eyes are going to be on the front of the face. And many of them have complex social behavior. The last thing that we see here is we start to see a lot of parental care. So you see the mothers taking care of the offspring until they are at a much later age than what we have with some of the other animal groups. The earliest known primates did spend most of their time in trees. So many of the characteristics that we see in primates are adaptations to help them be tree dwelling. That's not necessarily the case today. We do have some that spend more time on the ground than they spend up in the trees, and human beings would be one example of that. There are three main groups of living primates. This includes the New World monkeys, the Old World monkeys, and then all of these here will be what we call the apes. The New World monkeys, those are going to be found in South America, and those are all tree-dwelling monkeys. When we get to the Old World monkeys, we're going to have some that are tree-dwelling, and then we're also going to have some that are more land-dwelling. Most all monkeys are going to live in some type of a band. Or a group of monkeys. So that's when we're going to see those complex social behaviors exhibited. As far as the ape group is concerned, we have gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and bonobos, and then we also have humans or Homo sapiens. For the ape group, all of those are going to have pretty much long arms and short legs, no tail. This is all with the exception of the gibbons. So the gibbons will exhibit some different characteristics compared to what we see in the other ape groups. As far as the ape group that is the most closely related to humans, that's going to be the chimpanzees and the bonobos. So from the ape group, we want to take a little bit of time to talk about humans. Humans are known as Homo sapiens, if we use the scientific name. Homo sapiens evolved about 200,000 years ago, so that is supported by fossil evidence. And if we talk about the general characteristics of humans, these are going to be animals that are bipedal, so we walk on two legs. We're going to walk upright. Okay, so that goes along with the bipedal nature of it. We're going to have a larger brain. This larger brain is going to enable complex thinking. We're going to be capable of language, symbolic thought. We have artistic tendencies or abilities. And then we also have an ability to use tools and make tools for that matter. So that goes along with that larger complex brain. Other things is that we have a reduced jawbone. And we're going to have a shorter digestive tract. Now, if we talk about the molecular level, at the molecular level, we are very similar to some of the other ape groups. So human beings, Homo sapiens, are 99% identical to chimpanzees. So that's our DNA. It's 99% identical to chimpanzees. So there's just 1% difference in the DNA between human beings and chimpanzees. Now, if that difference is in regulatory genes regulate or control many other genes. So sometimes it doesn't take very much difference in the actual DNA sequence to cause big changes in the phenotypes of individuals. On this slide here, we're seeing a number of the human-like fossils that have been discovered. As far as the time range of all of these date back to about 7 million years ago. There was a number of different human-like organisms that did exist. And when we look at this, we can get an idea of how those characteristics were changing over time in different organisms. So we can see that from the earliest ones to Homo sapiens, there is a general progression to have a larger brain or an increase in brain size. We're also seeing the changes in the shape of the skull. So we're seeing that shorter jaw develop, the flatter face develop. Notice that there is not going to be just this single linear progression through these different human-like fossils to humans. This is a multi-branched tree. And if there's anything that you take from all of this about human evolution, we want to make sure that we know that we did not evolve from a chimpanzee. So there is not a chimpanzee that had some changes that suddenly then was a human being. It's not the case at all. This is a multi-branched tree. So if we drew this as a tree, you know, it's going to be all of these different branches splitting off. And the organisms that you're seeing on here, these came from all different places. And so you might have one of them might be at this tip, another one might be at this tip, and most organisms do end up becoming extinct. And that's what you see with all of these that you see on this slide here. Most are going to be evolutionary dead ends. Human beings have only been around for about 200,000 years, which really is quite short when we're talking about evolutionary time. Here's a picture that you often see that kind of perpetuates that one myth. And that myth is that a monkey underwent a number of changes that eventually turned it into a human being. Not the case. We can see in the fossil record just a diversity of human-like fossils that all, you know, at some point there was a common ancestor back there, but it would have been very long before all of them. And then there were a lot of branches in that tree. So we don't have this ladder-like progression or linear progression from an ape or a monkey into a human being. That's not going to be the case. So here's just another picture of all of this that kind of shows that multi-branch nature that we have with evolution and when we're talking about natural selection. So as our environments change, as we occupy different niches, keep in mind that natural selection is going to operate upon those. So it is going to select for different characters in different organisms that happen to be located in different places and subjected to different environmental pressures. So what might work for human beings right now might not be the same thing that is selected on in the future. Or if we have some environmental changes that may cause some characteristics to be more favorable than others. And this is the principle that applies to all living organisms. Evolution is happening all of the time. Natural selection is happening all of the time. And the characters that are selected for, they do change over time.